Hi, welcome to another episode of Redstart Cabin. As you can see, we've made a lot of progress. Most of that happened in the last 2 weeks. The last episode was way back in December, it's now March. For most of that period we were working on the floors, so I've got an update for you on the floors. We're also going to cover a couple of things that have happened in the last 2 weeks, like the brown coat stucco is on, like the windows are in, and the interior is insulated. So let's start there. Now we're building this house in the middle of the forest as a second home. It's not going to be a primary residence. And it's hard to make an economic argument that we should put in really thick insulation given that we're not going to be using it that much. But someone's going to live here full-time someday, so we went ahead and went full tilt on insulation. My preferred method to do insulation would be something natural and organic, something sustainable, something with no off-gassing, and spray foam is none of those things. But there's two kinds of attics in the world. There are conditioned, unvented attics where it's sealed and it's part of the airspace that you keep cool or warm. And then there's vented attics that are unconditioned. That's a more common way to do it. A vented attic, you put the insulation on top of the ceiling. So the attic space is not conditioned, and so the insulation goes right on top of the ceiling. And there we could have done some natural alternatives. We could have put rock wool down or cotton batting or what have you. But because we have an unvented attic, and we do that for fire control, fire risk, because we have an unvented attic, that means we have a conditioned space. And in a conditioned space, the insulation has to go on the roof, on the underside of the roof. And to build a wood superstructure, no one wanted to do that. They all said, just go with spray foam. Now, I'm not a big fan of spray foam. In fact, in Europe, you can't even get spray foam permitted in some jurisdictions. There's homeowners insurance problems, et cetera, et cetera. But here in the States, it's what 90% of everybody does all the time. And it's almost 100% if you've got an unvented conditioned space attic. So, you know, sometimes you just got to roll with the flow. So we put in a 10-inch insulated foam up in the attic, and it was really fun to watch them do it. Two guys came in real fast, sealed everything up in painter's plastic so all the dripping didn't hurt anything, ran hoses up from the truck that was at the bottom of the hill, sprayed everything. They were in and out in about 3 hours. They were suited up like it was a hazardous environment, and it kind of was. I only spent a few minutes in there because I really didn't want to breathe that off-gassing. By the time we actually are in the house, all that off-gassing is finished, so it's not going to be a long-term risk. It's just something on the day of the spray. So this is the brown coat of the stucco, and it's a concrete-like substance, and so it needs to cure. So every day I'm watering it down for a couple of days to help it cure correctly. Underneath this is chicken wire, which was nailed and screwed onto the EF block, and metal rims on the corners and on the bottom with weep holes, so that, because the stucco's porous and the water flows down and comes out the bottom, and you don't want to put that underground because then you'll get capillary action and all kinds of problems. So we have a weep line all the way around the structure. And when they were done with the chicken wire, I walked around and looked, and I saw something that concerned me. Above each window and door is a large box that contains the roller, and they weren't covered. That's a thin plastic material that covers the box on the outside. And they didn't put chicken wire on it, mostly because they couldn't. They can't screw or nail through that plastic without damaging what's behind it. So they just left it open and put the edges around it. That's not going to work. I contact the manufacturer, and yeah, that plastic is not UV rated, so it needs to be covered with stucco. It took us a couple of days. We came up with a solution of a very thick metal grid, very rigid, that we attach on both sides and on the top, and then we just stuck it over that. So that's covered. We got the weep holes done, we got the metals on the edge, everything's finished, and in about 3 weeks I'll come back and put on the finished coat. Quick update on the floors. We hired a guy to come in and do concrete work for us. It's a local guy, had all the gear, seemed to know what he was doing, proved not to be the case. And he ground the floors. And we paid for a salt and pepper grind, which doesn't show all the rocks. It just is down to the, well, like right in here. It shows the little tips of the rocks. And that's why we threw all the white in, so that we would have a little bit more variety with some little white tips in here. But he kind of went crazy. He was supposed to be here for 3 or 4 days. He ended up being here for more than 15 days, making mistakes and trying to fix it. So he ground way down. So we're down into the aggregate. Well, that's okay. But then what he's supposed to do is grout it and then polish it up. And the grouting is important because it fills all the little cracks and voids and some of the big cracks as well. But you're supposed to do that with a material that matches, color matches the concrete. And he didn't. He did it with an epoxy that's a dark brown color. So what we ended up with is dark splotches everywhere, in the cracks, and not in the cracks, any place that there was any voids or anything open, it ended up looking dark brown. And then he tried to get right to the end, and there's still a lot of scoring marks, and it just wasn't a good job. So he quit. I kept trying to get him to fix it, and he quit. So I'm left with this floor that's got some pretty ugly areas in it, and it's kind of uneven. And I have a choice. I can go all the way back to the beginning and do floors all over again and hire somebody, bring them up from the valley who has a lot more experience with concrete grinding to fix this, which would probably be a whole new aggregate grind, probably more expensive than the first pass, or I can cover it. Now, because it's a radiant heating and cooling, I can't cover it with wood or carpet, but I can cover it with this. This is a really cool product. This is marmoleum. It's actually a linoleum product, like back in the 50s. Linoleum is made from linseed oil and pine rosin and cork, sawdust and gypsum. I mean, you can eat it. It's all natural. It doesn't, no VOCs. The color goes all the way through, and so it's kind of neat. It's very thin, so it doesn't interrupt the heating and cooling. So that's our fallback. We can go with a marmoleum. We're going to do full sheets all the way, and not tiles like this. These are just color samples. And that was our original first pick, was to do a linoleum product. But because it's so stiff, you have to be certified and know what you're doing on install. And I couldn't find anybody in Arizona that would do the install for us. Now I'm a lot more motivated, and so I did find a guy. He used to work for Marmoleum as a tech lead for many, many years, and he does a lot of linoleum floors across the Southwest. A lot of schools and grocery stores and that kind of thing. But he's very good, and he can come in here and fix it. So if we can't get the concrete to the way we want it, we're going to cover it with this product, which will be a great solution too. So the saga of the doors and windows continues. Back in October, it's now March, we discovered that our units that came with the windows had a couple of key errors. The first error that all of them have is that they're 220 volt systems, they're supposed to be 110. The other problem is that they were lacking the insect screens. The insect screens are a pull down system that's integrated in the window, so I can have it up and you don't even see the screens, and I can only put them down when I want them. And they weren't there. So we've been arguing and working and arguing and working, and the vendor in Mesa, Lowy Windows, has done a great job staying on it. Tremendous amount of work to get this resolved, to get the manufacturer in Poland to agree that it was their fault, that everything was ordered correctly and they just shipped the wrong components, and then to agree to fix them, and then to agree to send out an engineer to do the work. So what they decided to do was just replace the top piece of each window. The kitchen window had to come out of the hole in order to do that. We'd have to do the same to the clear story and the patio doors as well, but the hassle and the risks of removing that once it's in is high enough that they instead elected to fix them on site. So those, they've taken the panels out and they brought down and they put the rollers down on the ground here, and they're going to replace the motors, and then they're going to install screen systems for the insect screens. Tomorrow they're going to come and install all the windows that have had their top panels replaced. And so the house will be airtight and it will have all its windows in, and the only thing that'll be remaining on this motor replacement is whether the clear story and the patio door screens work, and we're not going to have to uninstall it. So that means we can move forward with stucco, and that's my plan, is to just keep going, and we'll eventually get this thing resolved. I'm going to like these windows when they're done, and I'm very impressed with the manufacturer's rep down in Phoenix. They have done a great job, Lowy Windows, of keeping active on the project and continuing to harass the manufacturers to get this done. It's taken 6 months, and it shouldn't have taken that long, but the fact that they stuck with it and made it happen, I'm grateful for that. Here's the dining room window that was installed by one guy. Couldn't have done it unless he took the glass out. So he took out the glazing on this side, and he took out the operable window on this side, and then it was easier for him to get it up in place. Now you couldn't do that with an American window because the frames aren't rigid enough, aren't sturdy enough to be put in without the glass in place. The glass is required to provide the rigidity that you need. But these very heavily engineered European windows are so solid, you can put them in without the glass and put the glass in later. So once he got the frame in place, then he spent about 5 minutes per window with levels, and he put in wooden shims all around it until he got it perfectly level on the sides, on the bottom, on the top. He was checking and checking. You get that done, then he put in 2 layers of spray foam to seal it. Now after the spray foam hardens up 24 hours, he's going to come back around, take the shims out, put more spray foam where the shims are, and then put the glass in, and then these windows will be complete. You want to see something cool? Okay, this is the first time I've done this. There's a string. And there's a screen. That's pretty cool. And there it's open. That's so cool. So this is the glazing system that was removed for the window for installation. This glazing system is 2 pieces of glass with gas in between it. And in ordinary windows, like American windows, like some European windows, you just fill it with ambient air and that's fine. But if you're trying to get the most R value out of your windows, the best insulation, you fill it with a noble gas, one of the inert gases, argon. And in America, you can't get an argon-filled glass window system unless you're at the right elevation. When the window is transported from when it's manufactured down to sea level, back up to the mountains up here at 6,000 feet, those changes in ambient air pressures cause the seal to fail. And they actually put a little vent in them in American windows. This European window, as stout as it is, this seal is 1/4 of an inch thick, and the window itself is about 1 inch front to back, and it is solid. So the argon gas in here, even though it was manufactured in Poland at about 4,000 feet, goes down to sea level and comes back up here. It's the same argon gas initially, and it is still fully sealed with the argon gas enclosed. But you couldn't get that in an American window. Another thing they do is they want to know the elevation of the site where it's going to be installed, because then they put the right amount of pressure in so that on an average day, the window doesn't bow out or bow in. So it's not a random amount of argon gas in here, it's calibrated to the elevation where the windows will be installed. They're in. Now, of course, just the fact that they're in, I'm excited about because I can move forward on stucco and drywall. I can lock the house and leave tools here. That's all great. The insulation and with the windows in, the house is incredibly comfortable without any heating or cooling. We don't have electricity in here yet. The windows by themselves are cool. We talked about the glazing and the great insulation R factor. We talked about how solid they are. They open in a very interesting way. They open up like a casement window does, but they open in rather than out, which is really good for cleaning the windows. Since the ground is way down there, I can clean them easily by opening them inwards. But if I just want a little bit of air, I don't have to open it like this and let it intrude in the room. I can just continue the handle up to the vertical position and pull. So now I have a very solid, still secure ventilation system. That's pretty neat. And then, of course, the window screens. Those go up. I don't have electricity, so I'm not running the shutters, but they did test them, and they work really cool.